And joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, a man who stared the Big Ten, the Ivy League, the Pac-12, and many others right in the face as COVID was starting and saying, we play football down here. A man who maybe say football, Greg Sankey.
Yeah!
I heard that. That's how we told the story, and don't change it.
Okay.
Please,
We need to go back to the pilot thing, too, because I'm with you.
What's that?
I ask the guys when I get on an airplane, like a small jet, have you flown upside down before? And they look at me and they're like, why are you asking that? I said, because if it happens today, I don't want it to be the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you're right. I don't mind military folks flying. I appreciate military folks. Need them up there. But I think people look at me, they see the tank top, they hear I'm loud and crazy, this guy, and they're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and give him a ride up here. I'm like, I just need to get back on the ground. You know what I mean? I just need to get back on the ground. We're on the ground right now in the night before a massive event for your conference. This has become almost like a pseudo tradition. Come down here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and obviously game days here. And normally there's definitely a college football playoff spot on the line. You've had to have heard the conversations that have been taking place. Allegedly. Now, I don't agree with this, right, boys? Boys, we don't.
No.
We don't agree with this.
No, we don't.
We don't agree with this.
No.
But they're saying there's a chance, if Alabama wins this tomorrow over Georgia, that there'll be no SEC representative in a college football playoff. First of all, do you see that being a reality? And what would the conference's reaction be to that type of situation?
As I recall, the line, they're saying there's a chance, came from Dumb and Dumber, which may be a good description of that observation. People who know and understand football don't have a doubt about our status. And you can look this year, sure, we lost some non-conference games, but this is not a week evaluation, a 1 week evaluation. This is a season evaluation. And you watch how teams perform, how they improve, how they win big games, how they win close games, how they figure it out. And I think the winner of this game tomorrow, in fact, both teams, depending on the outcome, will be fully under consideration. The beauty of playing these games and the reason there's so much interest is, as I look at all the analytics, this is like the one conference championship game where there's a lot of doubt. Who's going to win? It's going to be intense, competitive. There's a lot on the line, but no matter what comes, we deserve at least one team in the college football playoff. We've proven that this year in the last 9. There shouldn't be any confusion about that. And we'll see how it goes.
I'll be excited to hear you and everybody else from the SEC if that is to take place. So you're saying there's a chance, obviously 1 in a million. That is something that has been chatted about just because the amount of fodder that happens around college football as a whole, especially down here in the South. Now, speaking of down here in the South, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. This is becoming a beautiful thing for the SEC. What are your thoughts on the fact that maybe the 2 greatest college coaches of all time are currently in your conference? And what are your thoughts on Saban and Kirby knowing each other so well and this becoming almost a yearly thing?
It makes, the fact they know each other so well makes our coaches show tonight much more interesting because there's stories that come out of the vault that you never imagined.
What is the coaches show? What is the coaches show?
We do that on the SEC network, so we'll interview both coaches. They each get a little bit of individual time, then you combine them to talk about the game.
Oh, really? That sounds great. What's that on?
Laura hosts SEC network, 611 on DirecTV, and I haven't figured it out yet on YouTube TV, but it's there.
It is.
I found it. I've modernized, so I just have, I don't know are there numbers on YouTube TV?
No, it's just alphabetical, I think. Tone, you're a big Tone. I know you have a question for Sankey, but you're also YouTube TV.
It goes like the traditional ABC, NBC, stuff like that, and then it gets into the sports networks. It's right in the middle there, right in the juicy middle. It's in a great spot.
Okay, perfect. What do you got for Big Sankey, Tone?
Yeah, Commish, we've been talking a lot this year, like when the NCAA rules, like in the Tez Walker situation or in a Harbaugh situation where they make a ruling, what if the team or the coach were to just say no? Does the NCAA have the power there? Does the conference have the power there? Like, does the NCAA can you as the SEC just be like, hey, don't listen to the NCAA, just play this kid, like it's fine? Like, how does that work?
Well, you'd render yourself ineligible for whatever there. So the conference made a decision. There was a lot of conversation about court activity, and that happens across college athletics. Depending on the court order, whether somebody plays or not, when somebody's just ineligible, the advice is always going to be don't play because you're going to either vacate that game or lose the eligibility for your team.
Okay.
Okay.
That's like the direct bureaucratic answer.
Okay, let me give you another question that you could just give us a bureaucratic answer to.
What was that noise that we just heard?
I guess they're practicing these flames, I guess, right over our shoulder. That was very loud. Shout out to the SEC doing it big. These flames were like Ray Lewis's last game in Baltimore big. We're talking fireballs shooting up to the sky, very loud. Handle it like a professional, which is what you are. So, speaking of professional, college football has kind of become that, right? With the NIL and everything that's taking place. The NCAA is in an interesting time. Have you heard the chatter about maybe going away from an NCAA-run football league? Like Kirk Herbstreit, who's one of the biggest voices of college football for the last 3 decades, came on our show yesterday and was like, hey, the time is now. If we're going to move on from an NCAA-regulated football, it would be with this NIL, with the business of it all. Have you heard that? And how do you kind of manage all that while also still being an NCAA-affiliated club?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard it. I just left a group of legends, former SEC football players we honor this weekend, and the last question out the door was from one of our former players saying, how long are you going to be a part of that? And there's a lot of complexities. I don't think you just move football. That's my view, because I can't look. Last year we had the highest ranked collegiate in the NBA draft, the number 1 and 2 picks in the MLB draft, the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, number 1 NFL pick. You got to look them all in the eye and say, we're going to give you. Oh, by the way, we won the women's amateur, the men's amateur, the British Open. You want me to go on? We won 9 team championships, the CFP and 8 NCAA championships.
It's different down here.
With that being said, you have to figure out how to treat your future Olympians in a fair way, too. And it would be tough to look the first round MLB pitcher in the eye and say, well, we can't do things for you because we're in the NCAA. Am I asked that question? Yes. But we have to have a national association. The association hired a new executive director. Charlie Baker was governor of the NCAA. I think he deserves an opportunity to see how we might improve. He and I spoke this morning about some of the key policy issues. So am I asked? Yeah. Do I think about it? I do. Am I asked more frequently now than ever? Certainly. Does that mean we just take the leap? We're going to give leadership a time to show leadership, and we'll have to figure it out after we see some direction.
That's an incredible answer, and thank you for giving us a little bit of substance there as opposed to just a PR one. You're a man.
Did I give an answer?
Yeah, I think I heard one.
Yeah, I'm asked more. I think about it more. There has to be a reason. It works. In Florida won, for example, the men's golf championship. That trophy with an NCAA logo has meaning because it's a standard.
Agreed.
We have to get that standard right, and it has to course correct right.
Well, and you also told us to give the new guy a shot, which you're right. Maybe there will be a different feel from the NCAA. AJ Hawk from Ohio State has a question for you.
Commish, I would love to ask you something, but I promised Ty Schmidt he has something he wants to ask you real quick.
Commish, just curious, not to look ahead. Obviously, this weekend, tomorrow is a massive ordeal, but a piece of the schedule for the football next year came out, I think, a couple days ago, just kind of highlighting a few of the marquee matchups. How difficult was it going through and kind of putting that together with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, and like how much time went into kind of selecting those matchups?
Sure. First of all, we were trying to protect it because we have a show on December 13th. So somebody at ESPN apparently leaked it.
Oh.
Hey, shout out Pete Thamel.
Yeah.
Shout out Pete Thamel.
Peter.
Chris Lowe.
Oh, okay.
Second, he's wearing an Iowa jersey, and I'm convinced that Iowa has a big bag of offensive tricks for tomorrow.
Thank you, Commish.
I think they've been saving it all year. The defense is specialized, finely tuned. I think it's going to be a big bag of offensive tricks to pull off. And there's a lot. So we announced expansion. We were first in this current movement, July 21. We started August 21. Bunch of surveys, athletics directors, coaches, football players said we want fairness and balance in our schedule. And you're like, well, what does that mean? So then we defined it. It meant we want to see teams more frequently. We want to narrow the competitive bandwidth. In divisions, there's pretty significant disparities between team schedules. So that informed moving forward in May, we have an annual meeting in Destin. Great place for tank tops in Destin in late May, so you're welcome there to talk.
Hey, can we set up the show from there?
We could do it from the beach.
Yes.
I don't know what the rights clearance
What's
is.
the date? No, we're clear. Rights
Memorial
are good.
Day week.
Yeah, we're there.
So there we decided to stay 8 games, a lot of noise. Then we showed the matchups, you guys may recall.
Yes.
Like, well, how can they stay at 8 games? We showed the matchup for 8 games in 24, and everybody has a phenomenal schedule. And then we wanted to take time about date placement So to answer the question about how difficult was it was years long. One of the key decisions was, should everybody play Oklahoma and Texas the first year they're in the league? And all you do when you start making decisions like that is narrow your options. And it came to me and I said, we should prioritize playing Oklahoma and Texas. Every one of our current 14 plays at least one of those teams next year. And so it narrowed. We produced a whole set of schedules, eventually ended up where we are. Those dates, some of them have leaked out. But we'll have a show to celebrate that December 13th, and I'm really excited about what we'll see next year.
Texas and Oklahoma, two massive programs. Not just football, by the way, to your point about everything else. That Oklahoma softball team's coming in with some real heat, let alone Texas's baseball team and golf.
Volleyball, Texas volleyball. You know, we have 8 women's volleyball teams, most of any conference. I haven't given that brag yet. And then we have Texas, which is the defending national champion.
Okay, so for all these sports, and obviously the focus for our show is on football, but we'll talk about all the sports. The big conversation is NIL has to have some sort of guardrail. And SEC schools never paid a kid before these NIL things happened.
Thank you for that.
Never. No SEC schools were cheating or whatever it was called beforehand. So it's all very new for everybody, obviously.
We're learning as we go.
Bingo. And we're in the early infancy stages of this entire thing, especially in the SEC and your conference. But is there how do you think the NIL conversation goes like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because the worry is that everything's just going off guardrail. You heard Matt Rule yesterday say, listen, if you want a good quarterback out of the transfer portal, it's $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. Feels like there's already a salary cap starting to happen. Like, how do you think it looks, and what do you have to say about that? Are you a part of those conversations?
Oh, absolutely. I spent 2 days in Washington, D.C. So the other extreme is interview on CNN. So they don't wear tank tops for those interviews.
How was it there? Pretty good.
I was in the House Judiciary Committee room for so it's like the opposite. I've bookended my week with
This guy's got range. That's what they say about Sankey.
That was
Here
from
goes
a Krusty
Sankey.
the Clown Simpsons episode. He's got range.
Yeah,
so.
guys definitely got range.
We'll go back to the question. I am highly concerned because we are shifting authority of our programs away from presidents, chancellors, athletics directors, and coaches to others on the outside, collectives, boosters. We fought for years, despite kind of the smile and wink at the beginning, to keep people out of our programs to the greatest extent possible. And if you didn't, you were accountable for that. We've allowed new economic opportunities. There's a lot of health in that. No one's saying take it away. But the young people in our programs are saying, this doesn't make sense. They're saying, I want to know when I play in a football game and I line up at the line of scrimmage that the person across from me is under the same laws, the same regulations that I have to follow. I want to know the people that follow when they're 17, 18 years old aren't trying to figure out 20 different state laws being recruited. We still have a responsibility to educate. And some of these deals, and you referenced Matt, we overrun the opportunity to gain an education, to set yourself up for life, for short-term decision-making. These are things that the young people on our teams are saying to me, and this isn't like the walk-ons. These are starters. So we do need a different environment. If the status quo reigns, we're going to go further and further away. Right now, we've got this transfer portal that has been unregulated around COVID, a lot of freedom of movement. There'll be more restrictions. And so that'll make some of this a little bit harder to the question about waivers and transfers. But it can't stay as it is. It's just not a functioning system. There's no system of sport that's fully unregulated. There's just not. Globally, there's not. And so we've moved into this space where states determine, and if they make good laws and state A and state B has no laws, the legislators come back and say, well, why do we have any laws at all? If state B is not following anything, why do we have anything? So it's a time of change. It's uncomfortable. One of my concerns is the really, really good leaders get frustrated and say, I'm not going to function like this. I want to build a team. I want to build into young people. Yep, I want them to have opportunity. But I think some of what you even referenced at the introduction is a coach saying, man, this just doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way to manage this than what we have right now.
You know what I'm worried about as well, and you said a lot about student athletes telling you these things and thinking about them, and obviously you're the commissioner of a college conference, so you have to think about the student human athletes. Like, some of these contracts that they're signing are terrible. Guys are signing some contracts to get some money, whether it's with businesses or collectives or humans, to get a little bit of cash to go to a place. And it's like the percentage of cash going forward, like there's some bad contracts being offered to these students as well. And that not being regulated, I think, is an issue. There's like so much. I'm a big let's get everybody all the money that they deserve type guy. But also, like, there's a lot of setup for failure here and potential getting screwed over by business, everything.
So here's examples. First of all, states that have laws, I know of no state taking action to enforce its law. There is a lawsuit. It's a former Florida football player. I don't know the details, but has filed a lawsuit because there was a signing for endorsement NIL purposes, and then he learned that extended beyond his college eligibility. That's the rough framework based on what I've read. I don't think that's a singular event. We know from researching some history of NASCAR drivers who sign away endorsement rights to access seats, music. In fact, you take the music one, I've got a friend that works in that space and says, you can't believe what people would sign just to access a car or apartment rent and realize, wow, I forfeited some rights to my catalog. European soccer and access for clubs and signing away rights. That's real. And we've provided no protections for young people. And this isn't like the 59-year-old conference commissioner saying, get off my lawn.
I'm 36.
Yeah. This is meaningful risk with no transparency, no oversight. Anybody can hit print on their computer and have a business card and a contract in hand. And we may not have people with the right advisors around our young people.
Yeah,
and they deserve better than this environment. Forget the coaches complaining for just a second. The young people in our programs deserve better than a state-by-state unregulated environment.
Hey, you'll get it done. AJ has a question for you now, even though Ty had one earlier. I apologize.
Oh, of course, I apologize. But have you ever thought and given any thought to possibly throwing your hat in the ring to become the NFL commissioner someday?
Ooh.
You know, I haven't.
$60 million.
I haven't. First of all, I know Roger Goodell, and I would not want to be the one on there saying, I want your job.
No, later, when he's done. When he's done. You know, when it's done.
I set my course around the educational setting in competitive athletics. I think from my experience as a low-level college baseball player, man, I learned a ton on that baseball field. I learned a ton on a Sunday night because a coach came and told me what I needed to hear about my role on a team as a backup bullpen catcher and as a leader. And that has been kind of the wind in my sails for years. I never thought I'd be the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference sitting on the Pat McAfee Show because it didn't exist back then, but in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, talking about college sports. But that's really my focus. So I haven't ever thought about the professional environment.
How are your knees? Good knees?
I've had surgery on both meniscus, but I finished 41 marathons, so I think that may be.
Why are you doing that? Why? Whoa.
There's a level of mental wellness check that I need from that. That's my therapy.
So what are we on, treadmill? Where are we out?
I don't like treadmills at all. Now it's about 3.5 miles. I did 9+ miles 3 months after knee surgery in July this year.
Is this the thing you're going to be doing forever?
I just enjoy it. You know, you put a pair of running shoes in a suitcase and in your T-shirt and your shorts, and you just go for a run. And you know, I enjoy that. You know, Indianapolis is a great running town, as you know. Great running town. But trails, you can go out towards Butler along. There's a trail that used to be like a railroad track, and I got lost out there one time. And ran 20
Connor
miles
runs on that. Yep. Connor, don't you run on that?
Yeah, a long time ago, Commish. I'm not doing it anymore.
I thought I recognized you from
Bingo. He had that same Panda shirt on. We only got 1 minute before we have a hard out. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for being cool to this show, too. I mean, you obviously understand the show. You just talked about being on CNN and then being on this one. You've always been very kind to us, and it's an honor to be at your championship, sir.
So it's great to have you guys. You and I met in Indianapolis when it was the same two teams matched up for a national championship. You were kind to me. I watched. I thought Travis Kelce's brother, the interview you did, I was in New York. I watched that. I thought that was phenomenal, except I should remember his brother's name.
Jason. He's got a Southeastern Conference to worry about. We got champions all over the place. AJ, why don't you take us out while I let Mr. Sankey get back to actual business as opposed to wasting time with us. Good luck this weekend.